Hello, guys. This is a review on the documentary of Chyna from Vice Versa. Chyna, if you don't know, was a wrestling superstar from the WWE, which back then was WWF. That stood for World Wrestling Federation. She was huge in every sense of the word. She was popular, she was successful, she was strong, and she was built big. I mean, that's what stood out from her at first glance. She was a big woman. She was like 5'9", 5'10", and she wrestled men. I mean, I'm gonna get into all of that. I have her autobiography here. I don't know if you could see it. I have her shirt. Well, the Generation X shirt, which she was a member of. Shoot. Um, so it's not a secret that I was and I still am a very big fan. This documentary focuses a little more on the sad part of her life, but she had so many great things as well. Um, I remember back in 2015 or 16, she was coming back from Japan and she authorized a documentary on her life in the hopes of getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, the WWE. I remember the producer or whatever started a fundraiser, and the more money you put in, like the bigger the prize was gonna be. For example, you would get a signed um, item or something like that. Maybe you would get to meet her depending on how much you donated. And I remember I was either unemployed or was very broke at the time, and I still pitched in just a little bit just to get my name mentioned in the documentary. And then for some reason, the reconstruction of China never really happened. And I didn't know that this documentary was made. I knew that a documentary was made, but I felt like it was just one of those cheap, like, oh, let's just exploit like um, their lives and let's just make money. We don't even know anything. We're just gonna make things up. But they still use clips, from that documentary, the reconstruction of China. She had been living up until that moment in Japan, working as an English teacher. And I remember even back then, when not a lot of people knew, I guess the real hardcore wrestling fans always knew where she was because she didn't make it a secret. She was out there working, but she was vlogging, and she would take us through her daily routine from the start of the day to the end. Sometimes she would start out with a smoothie, and then she would walk around, maybe go to church. She joined the Mormon church at one point too. Lots of things happened. Lots and lots of things. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about what her life was like and my opinions about it. Just as if it were a film. Only that this wasn't a film, and it kind of gets to me. And I'm not gonna be dramatic and cry here, but like watching it last night and for the past couple of days, it's been very hard reading her autobiography and watching clips from her because she didn't have to go out like that. There was so much that could have been done, but let's get started. Chyna was apparently a very bubbly girl. There's a bunch of pictures of her when she was a little girl smiling, and she was smart. She would get good grades. She was a goody two shoes, self-admittedly. And she knew that she was destined to do something big. She didn't know what it was. She worked so many jobs. She worked selling beepers. She worked belly dancing. She was almost going to be a flight attendant before she got into a very big car accident that changed um, her life path. For some reason, one night she was watching the television with her sister, and she was watching wrestling. She said, "You know what? I could do that. I could do that. Do you want to do it with me?" And her sister said, "No way. I'm not going to do it." So she started looking for ways to train and to get, knowledge about the sport. And she found Killer Kowalski School, which back then had a reputation of being like very, no, I think Mr. Kowalski passed away. I'm not really sure. It was like gnarly, very hardcore, and she paid her dues. She did what she had to do, and eventually she was spotted by Hunter and Shawn Michaels and Triple H, and they started negotiations with Vince to get her in. And eventually, through a lot of, no, 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 I don't like, from Vince's side, he finally accepted. She came into the storyline as a bodyguard for Triple H, and I believe her first appearance, she was sitting out in the crowd like a regular, viewer, and then she made her way into the ring and shook Terry Runnels like a rag doll. And Terry was the partner of Goldust at the time. I think it's Terry. This is about China right now. And then she slowly but surely made her way in. She started making more appearances. There was a scene where she folded open some bars, metal bars, to get out of a cage that she was locked in, so she wouldn't interfere in a match with Triple H. They formed what is now known as the Generation X, DX, um, where they did a whole bunch of like crazy shenanigans, very teenage rebel attitude. And she was kind of like the bad one. She was like, you don't even look my way. Like, she still made some jokes here and there. And then slowly they made the transition from for her from a bodyguard into an active wrestler, and she started wrestling men. She would pick up men that were like close to 300 pounds. She could bench press over 300 pounds. She could actually lift more than Triple H himself when they met. And you could tell by the physique that you know, she hit the gym even harder. Uh, it's crazy. Like, you just had to see, and I'm gonna be like, posting pictures of her so I could see how amazing she was. Um, Growing up, though, I forgot to mention she had a lot of insecurities because her mother kept changing boyfriends according to her, and she just wasn't there for her as a mom. She was actually the opposite, always criticizing her. Then she went to live with her father, who was a con man, and he would just pretend to be different people and take advantage of people all over the world. And he would always give her the thumbs up whenever she was succeeding at something. Say, Joanie, you're gonna do great things. You're gonna do great things. Smile, Joanie, do this. And the mom too. So she was just always like trying to be perfect, trying to be what they wanted her to be. And from the time she was an adult, I believe, like, I mean, she stopped talking to her mom when she was 16. And her dad, later on in life, even though in her autobiography, she mentions that he was looking for her, he called her Muffin. But she didn't want anything to do with him because it was just so painful. She liked her sister and liked her brother, but that's about it. And then eventually, in this documentary, I learned that she had a bad relationship with her sister later on because she wanted her to receive help. She wanted to take her to rehab. And obviously, Chyna was like very reluctant and in severe denial. Anyway, she reaches superstardom. She gets surgery for her jaw. I believe she said she had a slight overbite or something like that. You could see a change in her nose. Like, her whole appearance changed a lot because she wasn't huge anymore. She was just very muscular, and she was the type of person that didn't really have to do much because she was already that big. But she was definitely fit and more toned, and just on a smaller scale than her face and everything. And I'll put pictures of that. So she became this diva, or she adopted the persona or the character of Chyna, the ninth wonder of the world, the diva. She started wrestling women, and that's not something that she was into, but it's what she had to do. I mean, you have to do whatever's in the script, right? At her peak, she posed for Playboy and broke record for best-selling magazine at the time. I mean, she was huge. She was appearing on talk shows, on the Emmys, I believe. She was just humongous. Even my dad, who's just this guy from Mexico, he knew who she was. I mean, he didn't live in Mexico. He lived here at the time, of course. But I talked to him like, oh, I don't remember how it happened because I've been a fan for so long that one day I mentioned her. Sorry. And he said, oh, yeah, yeah, of course, Chyna. Yeah, everybody knows Chyna. I mean, she was big. Just think of someone like Ronda Rousey, for example. She was just big, and she was dating Triple H for years. And one day, according to Chyna, she found out a letter that Stephanie McMahon, the daughter of Vince McMahon, who owns the WWE, had written Triple H a year ago. So there was a storyline in their character arc, where Triple H and Stephanie McMahon became a couple and eventually married. And during that time, according to Chyna, they were, they had been secretly involved. And she knew that something was wrong, but she didn't know what it was. She just wanted to know. According to an interview that I saw of her, she just wanted to find out what it was, like disclosure. And eventually she found that. And there's like a lot of talks here and there about, could it have been this, could it have been that. I know that at one point she said that Vince warned her, don't lose your job over this or something like that. And these are all things that that were said, that you think that blah blah. I can't say because I wasn't there. Um, After that, she struggled to find jobs. Sometimes she claims that she was burned by the WWE, like her name, You know how they like blacklist, is that what it's called, when they're like, don't hire this person. But you never know. Again, what I do know is that she legally couldn't use the name China, which sucks so hard. I understand that that is of the WWE or Vince property, the character at least, but come on, dude, like you're worth millions of dollars. You can't like just do this for this person that made so much for you, because she helped build the WWE to the point that it was. And it's, you could say, oh, it wasn't just her. Of course not. But WWE would be nothing without the friggin' wrestlers, just like the audience. Everybody's important. Imagine no Stone Cold. Imagine no King. Imagine no Undertaker. No Big Show. No Matt Hardy. No Jeff Hardy. Like everybody contributes, and Chyna was a top dog in that organization. She did a lot. Why only for some people like The Rock? Oh, Rock, you could go out and be in movies and play the same character 60 times. No shade. I mean, I enjoy some of his movies, but he plays the same character all the time. And they kind of just help him through. They're like, oh, fine, you do whatever you want. And then they do that with some wrestlers, and other wrestlers, they act like they never were there. It's incredible. Um, then she wrestled for Japan for a little while. She had a wrestling exhibition with Joey Buttafuoco. I mean, boxing exhibition, not wrestling. She then came out in some very low budget films, some reality shows. It wasn't going well. You could tell that she was struggling really hard. And then years later, I mean, according to her, an adult film that she recorded with her then boyfriend. Um, oh gosh, I always use this character. What's his name? I'm blinking out. X-Pac. Yeah. I used to play X-Pac on the Nintendo 64, WrestleMania 2000. Um, anyway, yeah, they came out with an adult film, and she didn't want it to be published apparently, and then they go back and forth between you made money, you didn't make money. And then years after that, she joined a professional adult film company called Vivid to do like 3 movies, I believe. And I was in high school during that time. I learned so much. Hopefully, I don't forget to go over all the. Let's go over it now. Why not? When I was young, very little in Mexico, I should say. I was around 6 or 7 when I started playing the Nintendo 64, and I was given this game, WrestleMania 2000, I believe it was. And I would always play with 3 main characters: X Pac, coincidentally, The Undertaker, and Chyna. Chyna was one of my favorite characters. I would always play with. I didn't know who she was because I didn't watch wrestling over there. And then here, I believe I traded No Mercy for Diddy Kong with a classmate from middle school. I don't know. I know it was I had Diddy Kong and I traded for that other wrestling game, and Chyna was also there. And when I was like, I would say 11ish. Then I started to find out, or 10, 11ish. Yeah, I started to find out who China really was. Like, it's, these are all people from the real world and they are wrestlers. And I started getting into it. And, like, Googling back in the day, it wasn't as popular as it is now. Everybody just gets their phone. No, I would have to be in the computer lab and like WWE, Undertaker, and Chyna, Joanie, Laurer, eh, and I I started investigating and I started watching her matches well after they were finished because this is probably 2005 6 we're talking about. So it was years after she was let go from the company or after her contract expired or whatever happened. Since I was a young boy playing her character, I mean, I've always been very attracted to girls who are strong, physically or mentally or whatever, but just strong female. And if you could, for example, when I was in middle school, I remember there I had a friend. Back then it was just somebody that I knew, just a classmate, but she would beat all the girls running laps, around the field. And she didn't beat me, although she claims sometimes, she's like, yeah, I did beat you once or twice. No, 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 she didn't. But amongst the girls, she was the best. And I was just drawn to it. I'm like a moth to a flame. You show me a girl that could do something that most guys can't, or that mops the floor with girls, and I'm gonna be very interested in getting to know them. And China was that, and more. Even like without any prior knowledge about anything, and I didn't know English. I was just playing the game just based on like just trial and error. I knew that she was stronger, and and then I learned about her story, her matches, and I was just mesmerized. I was blown away because, especially in my culture, women sometimes, for example, if your father passes away, if your father leaves your mom or whatever, you're raised by women most of the time. But even then, they still raise you to be like, oh man, we have to serve you. We wash your clothes. We do your food. You don't, and then you're gonna find a wife who's gonna do that for you. Just um the expected pattern, behavioral pattern that you're supposed to follow if you are a guy. And women, while they are capable of doing a lot and raising children, women can't lift heavy. Women can't make very important decisions. Women just can't do that because women are women. And China was there to prove everything wrong, everyone and everything that I believed wrong about that topic. She was strong, and I remember telling my mom, well, mom in Spanish, mom, look, she could lift men up. And she was like, that's fake, that's not real. And I'm like, no, look, she's lifting the weights. You could see it. You can't fake that. Um, I learned that women can do things. You might think like, oh, that's obvious just because you were raised in this generation, maybe, or because now it's just something that we talk about, and even now people have a problem with it. You see a girl, deadlifting 300 pounds or more, and they're like, no, that's fake. You can't do that. Just because you can't do that doesn't mean that the girls can't. Freaking Tisha Torres from UFC. She's a strawweight fighter who's actually gonna have a baby with her girlfriend Raquel. I saw her deadlift a whole bunch of weight. I mean, girls could do. She could weightlift, I think, twice as much as me. Well, that's not saying much because I'm very skinny. Like, I think ectomorphic is the word. My body's just very, very thin. But I wanted to be like China. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to get there, to get to that point that she was at, because I would, it would motivate me. I would say, hey, if a girl could do that, then why can't I do it? So there's a lot of admiration, and it's, someone to look up to. So she meant a lot to me for that. And then when I saw her struggles, I remember thinking, this is gonna get a little crazy, but I have to talk about this. When I was probably in ninth grade, I came across some adult fakes. I don't want to get into details, of course, here. And I remember thinking it was about some of the male wrestlers, and I was thinking, unbelievable. I clenched my pearls. Like, wow. Why would they let them wrestle? Why would Vince let them wrestle? Look at what they're doing. They are bad people. I was raised Catholic, so I was like, that's bad, that's dirty, and all the kids that are gonna watch this, I can't believe it. The pictures were freaking fake. I thought that they were real because back in those years, the like early 2008ish, the phones still had like very bad quality, so I just thought they were real, and I was like, it's incredible, that unbelievable. And then China went ahead and did movies professionally and out in the open. And I learned something very valuable. I learned that adult performers in pornographic films are people too. Because back then I would just think, well, they're, I'm being honest, it's just trash people. It's just people that don't respect themselves, don't respect their bodies, have no conscience, like they don't care what their parents are gonna think when they see it, their kids. I just used to think that, um, that they were just lower. I felt superior to them, and that anyone else who had respect for themselves was superior. So when somebody that I admired so much and that I looked up to so much, like Chyna, started doing that on purpose, like it wasn't a leak, it wasn't this, it wasn't controversial, it was on purpose, I was like, holy fudge. Like, these are people too. And how hypocritical of people to consume, that content and then still ride their high horse and be like, oh, you're this, you're that, you're just a slut, you're whatever. Like, shut the hell up. Like, you're just a slut as well. Sometimes, like, maybe people don't want to have sex with you, and that's the problem. Maybe they're not into you. Or maybe you do have a bunch of sex, but people don't know about it. Maybe you have a wife and kids and you're cheating on them. Like, people are so freaking hypocritical. The level of hypocrisy in this world is astronomical. I can't even get to that. But through Chyna, this is the point that I'm trying to make. Through Chyna, I learned many things since I was a little boy, when I was a teenager, when I was a man. I learned about that. I remember also, while I was in high school, I came across a fitness tape from hers, back a VHS, but I watched it on YouTube, and that's when I started getting into with lifting weights. And now lifting weights has saved my life completely, because I struggle sometimes with mental, like depression, we could just say. I struggle with that, and weightlifting and hardcore exercising, to my standards, to my limits, it puts me in a state of relaxation. I don't know what chemicals it releases in my body, but it makes me feel okay. It makes me feel hopeful for the next day. And that was thanks to Chyna. I'm sure I was gonna get into this. It was my path in life to get into it. But it was through her that I felt like it was possible and that I could do it. Because I was a very weak kid. I was 15 years old, and I couldn't lift, grocery bags that were too heavy, that were too full, I should say. The gallon of water, you know how you flip it, and you see it in offices now. Not many people have it, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't lift it. And through her, I practiced, I trained, and I trained, and I followed all her tips that she would say through her vlog and through those, fitness tapes. And I learned, and I got to where I wanted to. And it's always a journey. You're still gonna keep going and keep growing, literally and metaphorically, figuratively speaking. And that's all thanks to her. So that's why she means so much. That's why, and more, like, I know I'm missing a lot of pieces in the puzzle, but she meant a lot to me in that sense. And I always recognize I'm not delusional. I'm like one of those people, praise the artists, they are heavenly, they are gods. No, they're not gods. They lie. They're like us. They're just like any one of us. But she devoted a lot of her health and her time to the people, to entertain people. She did it to entertain and to make a living out of it, and I respect that. And everything that all the tips that she gave that helped in my life, I'm appreciative of that. I can't just say just because she's a celebrity, I don't care about her. I care about her a lot. And sadly, here's the thing about like the bad things in her life. I can't sit here. Sorry, I'm like so uncomfortable. I can't sit here and like point the finger at the mom and say the only thing that rubbed me the wrong way is when she passed away, Chyna, and her mom came out like trying to stop the documentary from happening. But then now I hear her side of the story, and it's a little sketchy. But I can't like the reason why I was bothered by her coming out and even speaking at all was because Chyna didn't like her. They had a very bad relationship with each other, but we never know. So I'm not gonna sit here and talk bad about the woman who birthed Chyna. Why would I ever say anything disrespectful towards her? I wasn't there. I didn't see it. But just based on what Chyna said herself, why would you talk on her behalf if she didn't want anything to do with you? And her father had recently passed away as well. Well, I guess a few years back, or a couple of years back. This guy, I think his name is Eric. I mean, their names are not even important. I'm just like, he's like producing the documentary. He admitted to doing drugs with Chyna. Like, how stupid could you be? And we're all humans. We all make mistakes. I'm not condemning you like you are a monster, you're terrible. But based on the reactions that I saw from the freaking documentary, dude, you're a freaking butthole. Why? Why are you just so nonchalant? Like, yes, so we did drugs, and I just wanted to relate to her, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about? Don't you know anything about her life? Her struggles with freaking medication? Why would you get into that? You're not looking out for her. You don't care about her. I don't know what he cared about. Supposedly he wasn't gonna make money out of it. It bothers me so much. And like I said, I'm not saying that he's a monster, that he did this on purpose, that he had cruel intentions, but he didn't have the best intentions either. Clearly, you can't provide somebody with drugs, or like bring them from freaking Japan to the US where all the turmoil began in the first place, and say or claim that you have um her best interest in mind. It's just not possible. And her freaking manager, that other bum, it's incredible. It's beyond me. How he also is he like a psychopath? What is going on? He talks about it and he smiles, and like, I get it. Some people smile in uncomfortable situations, but he rubs off a very bad vibe. I don't know. So terrible. And he kept pressuring her, and that's not something that I'm speculating about. You could tell because even up to that point, of course, I was following Chyna and I would see her videos, and she was messed up, dude. It was obvious that she was messed up. Every freaking day I would wake up and I would see a notification on my phone or YouTube, a new video from her, and I would be like, sheesh kebab. Hopefully she's okay. I wanted to see her face clear, no tears, no bruises, no nothing. Sometimes she would wake up all poofy and she would claim that, she just took a cold medicine for a cold, and she was a little bit sick. And I would be like, really? Is that it? And this freaking bum who saw all of that, he still pressured her to do things that she didn't want to. And there's a clip where she's like, I signed up for this. I know I did, but I'm just so tired. She used the word tired so many times. I remember she looked tired and she tried her best, I'm sure, doing those autograph signings and stuff, which I feel so terrible about, like, not attending, because I could have been there. I could have at least have seen her in person, and I missed out. And that's another thing that she taught me. But anyway, yeah, this manager of hers, shame on you for doing this, man. Don't pressure people who are mentally unstable, who are going through a time where they don't have the capacity to face their demons and face the demons of the world. Going to the WWE headquarters and basically begging with somebody who had just talked about Triple H's private life. Because here's the thing, as much as I feel for Chyna and would have loved for her to go back if it was what she wanted and what would make her happy, I do see Triple H or Vince or the WWE's point of view from where I'm sitting. Chyna had talked a lot of smack about Triple H a lot of personal things, what he liked to do in his, private life, in his bedroom, and how Stephanie was a bitch and this and blah blah blah. If you're still talking about that years and years after your departure from a company, they're not gonna trust you to get back into the company and maybe pull off a stunt that hurts the other people or the business. Or why would Vince risk you slapping his daughter around? You know what I'm getting at? Like, as much as I love Chyna and I'm gonna be team Chyna forever, she wasn't presenting an image of somebody who was over that, who wanted to move on, who wanted to do, there was a point where people on Twitter started saying that she ran to Triple H and she like tried to like attack him. I don't remember, and she had to post a video saying, "Hey, no, I was at the funeral of Roddy Piper and he was a friend to me, so I was there and I saw Triple H and I wanted to hug him and I apologized." So she apologized to him for saying the things that she did. But it's still, you I get why a company wouldn't really think that you are 100% well again. And maybe if she was, and maybe if she hadn't spent all those years, talking smack about the company, then maybe they would have let her back in, because they let anybody in. Like Vince Russo, one of the writers from WWF back in the day, he said like they have felons there. They accept anybody. And I mean, there are so many details. Triple H says something on Steve Austin's podcast. There's things all over the place that are very gnarly, very dirty, but all in all, it was just unfortunate the way things played out. I remember when she passed away, when I heard the news that she passed away. And she lives so freaking close to me, man. I think Huntington Beach is like so close. A friend of mine texted me and said something along the lines of, "Is it true that Chyna's dead?" Sorry, the dog started barking. That moment when I read that message, I I didn't think about it. I didn't rationalize and, oh, could it be? No, I just felt like, what the hell? Like, what? But I'm gonna go see her. She's doing autographs. I'm gonna see her when I have money. I'm gonna see her. And 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 then I couldn't see her because I just wanted to say thank you for, you existing and you being who you are has taught me so much about what being a good person, a really good person, not a genuine one, not a fake one, a pretentious, hey, I'm the partner, not that, but somebody who actually wants to work their body and their mind and be better and feel good and entertain people. That's what it was all about, and that's what I wanted to tell her, and I didn't get a chance. I googled it. Twitter was blowing up with freaking RIP messages, and I told him later, I was like, dude, you effed up so bad. You didn't break it down easy. I know that she wasn't a family member. I'm not claiming that I didn't know her. I never spoke to her. But I was, I grew up seeing this character and this personality, TV personality, that I learned a lot from. Like I just explained, I was very grateful for her as an entertainer. And that was awful. I remember the WWE shortly after made a little compilation video, a tribute to her, where Triple H commented and a whole bunch of other wrestlers. I think Victoria commented. Like a lot of people, I don't remember, and and people were cheering. They played it live on the screen in the arena, and everybody was chanting her name. And I felt like, I feel even now that she left thinking that people didn't like her, even remember her. And and we do. I know that she's not even my mom, she's not even my sister, but I remember you, and I've been doing tributes with my little, hobby, which is like making photos, like horror art photos and songs. And almost every year I do a tribute to her, in her honor, because of all the things that I learned. Like, I'm not repeating myself over and over, but I felt so bad because I didn't get a chance to tell her in person. And with these type of things, you sometimes think that maybe if you said something, maybe if you had the words to change it, and sometimes you do and sometimes you don't, but I guess I'm never gonna know. And that changed my life for the better, because now I live in the moment and I don't take things for granted. So if there's, like, for everyone out there, live your life. If you love your siblings, if you love your family, if they're not complete buttholes, be with them and spend as much time as possible. Money's not everything. Be with them, with your mom, with your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriends, whoever, your coworkers. Have fun, live it up. And that's, I guess, the biggest life lesson that I could take from her. China was a ray of light. She wasn't perfect. She really wasn't. There's a lot of bad things that happened to her, and a lot of pain that she caused others. I have to admit, but she also apologized for it numerous times. She tried her best, and she was dealing with severe mental distress. It's not easy living with depression and living with the symptoms and the wanting and yearning for self-harm the way that she did. She tried her best, and for that, we have to give her props for that, because others would have quit way early, into those symptoms, and she didn't. She was a fighter. She fought all the way through. And I guess that's it, Wawa. Look, that's it for this one. Um, Thank you, China, wherever you are. I'll never forget you. And thank you for watching.